Speedvark is the band, which this band, talking to Peter about this, goes way back before you were around, and now you are
Right.
singing on Children of the Revolution, which comes out September 30th, the T-Rex song.
Mhm.
Um, and he noted in giving me the info that you're into T-Rex. How'd you get into them?
Well, that would be through, I think it probably through my brother's fiance. We were playing a game where we each introduce each other to a new band, and she happened to put on Get It On, which I thought was the greatest thing since sliced bread. So I got into them from there, and independently started going through their records. I got really into Electric Warrior, was the first album that I really got into. Um, I think what drew me to them as a band and to Mark Bolan particularly, um, is his incredible character. I mean, what draws all of us to T-Rex is the unbelievable showmanship of Mark Bolan. Um, he as a sort of icon, so important in breaking down the gender element of rock, and the sort of virtuosity of rock went back to the sort of Elvis style, simple songs, great melodies. I think that's what really drew me to the band. And so I also share an interest in them with my dad, the other guitarist and singer of Speedvark. He has been into them since he was a kid. They were one of the first bands that he really got into. Um, and so we started to talk about them and to get back into them together. I think it was really good fun for him hearing them around the house again. You know, when we're getting ready for school in the morning, I'd put on the slider and we'd end up having a chat about the band. Um, and so then that got into going to record shops and finding T-Rex records, and it's carried on from there.
What made you want to cover this song with the band? Why did you want to cover this song in particular?
Because it's great fun. It's part of the ethos of the new Speedvark is that each gig has to be like a party, you know. So we're always interested in bringing on a new song with energy and with passion and with strength, something fast and energetic for dancing, particularly for dancing. That's something which has really caught us recently. The idea that the more energy you put into a room, the more energy the room is going to give back to you in a live setting. And so we as a band gravitated towards the song as a live piece for partying, for dancing. But our version of it became something a little bit more than that to us. We introduced these sort of Eastern semitonal themes, which we really wanted to explore, and we wanted to put in a nice guitar solo and bring in a really heavy guitar sound. And so these are all things which we wanted to explore further, and we thought that a really fun way of doing that would be to release the song as a single.
It's the tempo change was one of the things that really jumped out at me first. And I like it. It's good.
Mm.
But how do you try to create a cover where, and to each their own on how they cover a song, but whether you don't want to necessarily recreate the original, because, well, what's the point? I mean, you
Mm.
can, but there's kind of
Yeah.
a reductive nature to that. But then also maybe not turn it into something totally different. How do you find that proper route right down the middle where you can put your own stamp on it, but yet there's still the essence of the original song
Mm.
still there?
That's an interesting question. I think we're all fans of T-Rex. We all love their music, and so putting the problem with Speedvark is that really we're not quite good enough to cover a song perfectly. So whenever we try and cover a song, we automatically put a part of ourselves into that. And often that's how one ends up writing a song. You know, you're trying to work out what somebody else is playing on a record and stumble upon an interesting concept that you want to explore further. And so putting ourselves into the song was not tricky. You know,
Mhm.
that came very naturally.
Right.
Retaining elements of the Bolan version came through working out what makes him individual. And a lot of that is in the vocal performance. His voice is just so distinctive, you know. Difficult to hear a song he sings on and not know who's singing.
Right.
Um, and so, you know, finding the grooves and finding the little eccentricities in the vocal, that's all stuff that we wanted to retain. You know, what makes the song a great song? Well, it's his delivery and the groove in the band. And so they're the two things that I recall us considering before going into the cover.
It's an interesting point you say about how it ends up sounding more like yourself, especially at this point. And I'm thinking of other bands that have done covers over the years. And what's coming to mind is their early covers seem to be of a piece with their originals. And then if they do later covers, then there's elements of the band still, but it sounds like they branch in other directions. So it's probably really more
Mm,
of a natural thing than
mm,
anything that doesn't necessarily have to do with the caliber of the band. It's more, well, this is who we are, this is what we
mm,
do, and the end result can still sound really good. Like for whatever reason right now, and I'm a big Duran fan, but what's going through my mind right now is the cover of Fame. Is one of their
mm.
B-sides from around the time of their first recording, which sounds a lot like everything else off of their first album, but
Yeah.
they did a spin on that. And of course, they were interestingly, I bring them up. They were influenced by that same glam
Oh,
rock,
totally.
Mark Bolan, the whole thing, and of course there was the Get It On cover from the Power Station as well. But there you go. It still sounds good, but it sounds like them when they were a formative band at that time.
Mm.
So, however you guys are looking at doing covers, this applies to a lot of other bands too. You're going to sound like yourself. How would you describe the essence of Speedvark at this point, being an old band yet a new band, all at the same time?
Mm. The old and new element of it is so I mean that's a really big thing for us. There's years and years of Speedvark history which the general public are as yet unaware of. I mean, perhaps more so since our recent release of the Pigeon Pop 25th anniversary edition. Um, it's an interesting thing because we've grown up, of course, around our dad, who's been in Speedvark for years. The essence of Speedvark is something which has been in our playing and in our songwriting since we picked up the instruments. So when we slotted into the band for the first time a couple of years ago, it really wasn't a big shift in the band's sound. It was more just an energy boost because suddenly it wasn't just two people anymore. It was a whole five-piece band. So I'd say that the essence of Speedvark in its form nowadays is energy. And so getting that energy into the Bolan cover was the big challenge. Pushing that to become a part of our show and bending our sound to become a part of that. In addition to energy, there's a big part of Speedvark is about a slight degree of eccentricity. In Dad and Pete's early recordings, there's a sort of irony behind the songs, which is very difficult to put one's finger on. Um, Coming from Hemel Hempstead, which is around the London commuter belt, they had this idea of mundanity and you know, driving into work every day and driving back along the commuter belt, and they began to find that idea sort of strangely magical. Looking at the different characters on the tube, and they've got a song called Norris Hayes about somebody who kind of finds themselves on the London Underground. Um, and there's a real eccentricity in that, which is very much part of the Speedvark sound, finding very normal, everyday situations and realizing there's a sort of magical thing in that.
You pondered any other covers in the near term, or are you focused more on writing original music?
There have been covers which have been a part of the Speedvark set for a long time now. The first ever recording that Dad and Pete did together was a version of The Faith Healer by the sensational Alex Harvey Band, which we still use to end the set to this day. That's our closing number. Um, but since then, it's gone through all sorts of changes, and different elements have been added and taken out of it with our new jamming style. Um, we've done a couple of other covers. We do a version of "Are You Gonna Go My Way," the Lenny Kravitz
Mhm.
number, and we went through a period of doing a version of "All Tomorrow's Parties," originally the Velvet Underground, but covered in a really interesting way by the band Japan in the late 70s. So we did a version of that with that. It's a really interesting cover, the Japan one. David Sylvian on vocal. They do a really interesting thing with it, and so we wanted to explore that, and we added a bit of a jam into that. In the near future, I think we probably want to be turning back to mainly original stuff. Um, it's interesting with the band because they didn't achieve vast success in their initial form. There are lots of really great songs still in demo form that we are really keen to explore. So our opening number for the next set is going to be an as before never heard Speedvark original named Insect Wings. So that's going to be really good fun to break out.
Nice.
Um, yeah, I think getting back into jamming together, writing together, it's going to be really good fun. I think the near future holds a lot.
What do you think, or not think, but how would you assess the chemistry with so many family members and different ages, different generations? How quickly does that evolve with the ages changing over, especially the teenage years? There are a lot of changes that happen pretty quickly. How does that chemistry change as months and years go on?
I mean, the chemistry when we first joined the band was, I'd say, near instant. We know Pete's drumming because it's been what's been around us. That's our kind of benchmark for a great drummer is Pete, because he's been the sound that's been in our ears since we were, small children. Um, and so when we joined the group, we were slotting into what we already knew, which was a really bizarre experience. After a few rehearsals, we were firing on all cylinders, which it wasn't a normal feeling. We've been in other bands before, and me and my brother Mig, particularly our keyboard player, we've tried other projects, and the chemistry's never been there so quickly as it was with our first Speedvark rehearsal. And really, over the years, that chemistry hasn't really changed. I think musically, all of our influences are so similar. We all come from such similar places. We all, and even if it's not things that we are into, it's things that we hear each other listening to around the house. So Meg, the keyboard player, is a really big fan of prog rock. He loves Yes and Pink Floyd and Hatfield and the North, so quite niche prog bands. Whereas Marcus, my older brother, the lap steel and bass player, he's quite into country music and really likes ambient sort of stuff, which isn't what I'd listen to on the day to day, but it's been in the air in the house, which is a really interesting way of fielding new influence and understanding how each other play. I think living together is a particularly interesting way of getting to know the rest of the band. I mean, we all know each other like the back of our hands. It's really great, and so we immediately know in jams where each other are going to go. Where's Mick going to take the keyboard part? Well, he might kind of draw from a Yes album, and what's Marcus going to do with the lap steel? Well, it'll be country, but according to Speedvark eccentricity, it will be a slightly psychotic form of country. So this is the way that we operate when we jam together.
What is your goal for, like, oh, let's say 5, 6, 7 years down the road? Where do you want Speedvark to be?
I just like it still to be fun, which I'm sure it will be. I can't see it ever not being fun. Um, our grand plan is to have a great time. You know, we start every show by getting on stage and saying, "Hi, we're Speedvark. We're here to have a great time. We hope you do as well." So, personally, I'm not kind of aiming for a massive worldwide hit. You know, I just want it to be great and fun, and I think actually that is what makes really exciting music when the artist, or I call myself an artist, but you know, when the person who's doing the music is enjoying it and enjoying creating something new and fun and interesting. um that's my goal, is in 5 years time to still be doing something new and fun and interesting.
Very cool. Well, this is a good marker on the progress. Children of the Revolution, the T-Rex cover comes out very soon. Before I let you go, are there any other recordings you have planned? Any studio time booked for anything else coming after that?
No studio time booked, but we are going back into live playing. And I can give you the date of our next gig if any listeners are interested. Sorry, Tuesday the 24th of October. We'll be playing at the Fiddler's Elbow in Camden for a Halloween bash. So that's going to be great fun. Um, no, yeah, no more studio time yet booked, but big live things planned. We're also looking to play festivals in the UK and Europe next year. So if any listeners happen to be interested in bringing on a Good Times band, let us know.
And who knows, maybe come over here to the States at some point. Well, there's music scenes all over the place, so there's stuff worth checking out around here, even up here in the upper Midwest, for sure. I know the Twin
For
Cities is
sure.
pretty good with that, and yeah, you never know. Just get around, and we'll see what happens, and maybe we'll actually see you in person over here in
Yeah,
America. So,
well,
you can
great.
dream really big. Nathan Raudnitz, thank you for taking time to chat today.
Thank
All the
you.
best going forward. All the best. Good luck with all the music, and we will see you down the road.
Appreciate it. See you.